Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 35, which is called It's Up to You. So we had a month off, so it's been like 2 months basically since the last chapter. So we were expecting something big, and in my opinion we got something big here. 34 was a great chapter. This is also a great chapter. They're building up to some huge stuff here. They're getting into the lore, Otsutsuki lore, and that's exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, if you go back to like my thoughts on like the Boruto movie, when the manga covered that arc, that's kind of what I was like in terms of a longer term storytelling type thing. They're going to get into Otsutsuki stuff, and that's what this chapter is about. So very excited to go through this. There is an announcement as well with this chapter that it's been decided that the Boruto manga is going to be transferring to V-Jump, so it won't be in Weekly Shonen Jump anymore. It'll be instead in V-Jump, and I'm pretty sure that's just because Boruto is a monthly manga. V-Jump is usually where monthly manga go, and I think a space recently opened up there, so that's why it's kind of transferring over. And especially with a bunch of new series recently started in Weekly Shonen Jump, I get why they're kind of moving things around while Boruto is monthly. So yeah, chapter 35. So where we ended off last time out was, of course, Kawaki wants to go outside to try and search for the final piece of the vase. And what we get, of course, is that he encounters Naruto asleep, and there is Kurama, the chakra form of Kurama's head, speaking to Kawaki. And the first section of this chapter is basically Kurama talking to Kawaki and helping Kawaki to sort of understand a different aspect of Naruto. So that's really interesting. You know, he explains basically who he is. I'm the fox that's possessing this guy. You know, this was also personally requested by the heads of the other villages, by the 5 Kage. And he's kind of like, oh, you know, to think the Kage asking me, you know, favors these days. It's really strange. Kawaki knows that he is a Biju, or a tailed beast, because he read about it in Kara documents. And he's kind of like, oh, well, with a guy like the Hokage, it obviously means that he's strong. You even agreed that he could become the head of the village. So Kawaki's kind of interpreting this as like, oh, like, you kind of control things. You have like a certain level of power. You are the one who, it's because of you that Naruto's the head of the village. And Kurama's actually like, no, it would be natural to think that, but you're misguided. Rather, it's the contrary. Up until now, I've only been a nuisance to this guy. I've been observing him since he was an infant. He was shunned by everyone around him, and he was always alone. His life was far from being smooth sailing. That's right, if anything, he resembled you. And we get a kind of recap here of Naruto's backstory, including the notable kind of wording here. He inevitably became a vessel that sealed me away. And that obviously is connected to Kawaki and also Boruto, I suppose, with the idea that seemingly, you know, that karma power, you know, the people who have it, they're almost considered by people coming up with these plans as just being a vessel to hold that power. And that's exactly what Naruto was. That's exactly what the Jinchuriki were seen as in a lot of cases. So I think I like that idea, and it kind of also begins to link into the really nice stuff from Naruto when Kushina was introduced, of like, how did she live a happy life while being a Jinchuriki, and it was to, you know, also fill herself full of love in addition to also having the tailed beast inside her. And in a way, that's the development that we're kind of getting here from Kawaki becoming part of Naruto's family. As we'll get to, Boruto and Kawaki beginning to sort of see each other as brothers. It's I think really well done here. Yes, it's recapping the backstory we know about all too well, but I think it's very well done here because the backstory is being told to Kawaki, giving, you know, the full context. So we get the scene with Naruto on the swing, of course. We get a flashback to, I think, a chapter or two ago where Kawaki was like, oh, your speciality jutsu is the, you know, shadow clones. You know, you could have a fight with yourself. You'd always be able to vent things out. And Naruto's like, no, you'd think that, but that's not actually how it works. And that just him having shadow clones didn't, you know, cure that loneliness and stuff like that. So he says, when you have friends, your world will change. That's what Naruto said, of course. And Kurama says, I got to watch closely as Naruto's heart slowly became fuller. He's certainly living proof of it. And Kawaki asks, do you think that I could become someone like him? Of course, it's all up to you though. It's not like you couldn't. Just by looking at you, I can tell that despite your name, it doesn't seem as though your heart is completely parched yet. So that's an interesting one. Kawaki kind of cries a little bit here, and Kurama just says, you can look for the fragment of the vase tomorrow. And then we cut to some training. Kawaki learns how to do the kind of chakra walk up a tree, and he's learned this very, very quickly. Kawaki just wants to get to learning shadow clones, and Naruto's kind of like, I thought it took a large amount of effort to learn how to do this, and even Boruto's like, actually, it was super easy for me to do as well. And Naruto's just like, it took me ages to learn that. And even Sasuke, actually, that was a little bit of a challenge for him. Sakura was actually the one of the three who learned that jutsu the quickest. So that's interesting. This is more of a chakra control specific thing. So then we see that Chocho and Sarada are actually watching this training happening. And we see that Sarada's actually a little put out that Kawaki is getting all this, one-on-one training with Naruto. That's what she really wants. But she understands his circumstances and stuff like that. But she's a little put out that she'd like that sort of training from him as well. So it's interesting to see where exactly they're going with that. They're getting across the idea that, like, in a way, there's a kind of separation here. They need to kind of, bridge a gap. If they're doing all this training with Naruto, she's going to have to do her own training. And where's she going to get it from? And we'll see, I think, a hint about where they're going with that. But we do get this next scene here with Sai and Shikamaru talking. And Shikamaru is still suspicious of Kawaki. They talk about how naive Naruto is about all of this. Sai actually steals Shikamaru's cigarettes. And they talk about the data that Konohamaru brought back from the kind of coffin-like thing that Kawaki was actually in. And Sai says there's something similar to coordinates that point to a certain spot. You can only get to it using space-time ninjutsu. It's probably a trap, but Sasuke is actually chasing after that clue. And we cut to Sasuke. He goes into where these locations are. He uses his space-time jutsu to get there. And we get a very, very, very interesting shot here of this kind of podium. It's got the Rinnegan symbol on it, and then there's these kind of mountain, like a kind of cliff face almost, like beside him. It's not super high, but carved into the rock is these symbols, and it's like it's like a kind of podium almost. There's like, two here and then one kind of slightly placed higher up in the middle. And in each of these kind of rectangles, there's two circles with symbols in it. One on the top, one on the bottom. We see the one on the left is intact, the one in the middle is intact, but the one on the right, it's kind of torn off. The symbols, you can't quite see it. And these become very important because what's going to be revealed here is that these symbols refer to an Otsutsuki clan member. So 6 Otsutsuki characters referred to here, and we know a couple, but not all of them. So that's what's going to be revealed here. So Sasuke comes in, wonders what's going on. He sees these symbols, touches one of them, the one closest to him, closest to the ground, basically. And what happens is that on the podium, a kind of hologram of Kinshiki Otsutsuki appears. So that was the guy who came with Momoshiki. He's dead at this point, of course, but it's a hologram. So he then is like, okay, what if I touch the one, on top of that? So he kind of jumps up and touches that one, and of course it's a hologram of Momoshiki. Then he decides, oh, well, in that case, then I'll touch the next one across from that. So this is he's still on the side of the wall, so this is the bottom one in the kind of center column. So he touches that, and it's Kaguya. So that's really interesting, that they reveal it's the image of Kaguya on the bottom. And then, let me just get the specifics here. Every pattern is depicted as a pair. Some of them have been extensively damaged. That's the one on the right. So this one's Kaguya. So who's the one on the top? who came with Kaguya as her pair. Because obviously Sasuke puts it together that, okay, the two in this rectangle, Momoshiki and Kinshiki, they came together. We encountered Kaguya. She came with someone. Where's that Otsutsuki? Where is that person? So he goes up top and presses that symbol, and we don't get a full look at it. But from behind, it isn't Otsutsuki. The horn that he has is like this kind of big one that sort of stretches along the back and then kind of comes out more off to the side here. It's a pretty big horn, and it coincides pretty well with the symbol that he has. But we'll get revealed basically who this is later. Now, I don't know if we're meant to put any significance on like the placement of like who's on the bottom, who's on the top, and that being like a power structure order type thing. I'm not entirely sure. The impression I kind of get is that it seems like potentially the one who's placed on the top is meant to be the sort of higher level Otsutsuki. Because Kaguya, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't actually a particularly important Otsutsuki as far as we were aware. Because like her task was not actually to hunt for the chopper fruit herself. It was actually to get one and bring it back to the main clan. So Kaguya almost is like not particularly important. She just happens to be important to, the planet, this planet, because she, is the progenitor basically of chakra. So, she's important to, the planet, but in the grand scheme of Otsutsuki's, perhaps not as much. So anyway, this is when he talks about, the space beneath the pedestal. There's something alive down there. So the thing he came in on, underneath it, he actually finds the Jubi, or the Ten Tails. But he's like, the way they word it here, it's like, it is a Ten Tails. It looks like the Ten Tails he's familiar with, but it is not this one. Because as far as we're aware, the Ten Tails is part of the moon again, isn't it? This is where, like, this whole thing of, like, Otsutsuki's, the God Tree, the Chakra Fruit, the Ten Tails, how you link it all together. It's kind of asking you to remember all of that and sort of reconsider it again here. But, when Kaguya was sealed, she is, again, part of the moon. They did the whole planetary devastation thing and, did the seal on her. So that's kind of back to being the way it was. But I think we'll get to some of this later on. So we cut back to, who do we have here? Boruto's team, Kawaki and Naruto. Naruto asks Boruto, has your karma mark ever hurt since the last time? And Boruto says it hasn't been hurting much later. Even though it didn't hurt after exercising, I could feel it throbbing, and I've been having a poor quality of sleep. Maybe I was just stressed. Kawaki mentions at this point that it hasn't been hurting him either. He also hasn't woken up to any nightmares recently, and he's been feeling a burst of power that he hadn't experienced before. So the idea seems to be here that given that Boruto and Kawaki have this connection to the karma mark, it's almost like that they're sharing certain experiences with each other. The tortured sleep of Kawaki has almost been a little bit passed on to Boruto, and some of the, I suppose, ability with chakra has kind of been passed on to Kawaki, I think is kind of what they're getting at here. And this is when they do a very, very interesting thing here. Sarada just randomly brings up about the karma mark. I've been wondering if there's a connection between that and the jutsu mark on her mother's forehead, on Sakura's forehead. So what's that? Sarada's like, I know she has that mark on her head. I know it's a kind of jutsu. I never asked about it though. Naruto reveals it's the Byakugo no Jutsu. It's, I suppose, the English translation that they use is the myopic regeneration jutsu, and that is the like seal of 1,000 healings or something like that is the word that they give to it. I think translated or something like that. Either way, so this is where they're beginning the connection, because when you really break it down, the karma mark is just effectively that symbol. That's the core symbol, is just that symbol on someone's head. It's on Jigen's chin and stuff like that. Naruto points out that Tsunade, if you look at the stone monument, also has that symbol. And Naruto explains basically that every day chakra accumulates little by little on the mark on her forehead. It's a jutsu that can be used as a trump card, but at its core, it is just ninjutsu. it's unclear if it's related to the karma mark or not. And Kawaki's kind of like, the shape, it's just a very simple shape, it's found everywhere. We'll get nowhere if we just consider that. And Mitsuki's actually like, no, my parent, Orochimaru, told me there's quite a lengthy history surrounding the Byakugo no Jutsu. There's a lot that is still not yet understood about it. So the myopic regeneration jutsu, we don't know about it yet. And you begin to remember all this stuff about that jutsu, and that when Tsunade or Sakura activates it, the mark kind of like, they do get more markings kind of on their face as it's used. And it's not quite karma mark level, but the idea is when you use it, when you use that, the healing jutsu or the karma itself, the mark sort of spreads throughout the body. One for healing, and then the karma, I suppose we don't know the full extent of it, but like it has kind of chakra amplification powers type thing, absorption. There's a lot that it can do. Perhaps in a way that myopic regeneration one is just a way to sort of create like the essence of a karma mark but focused on healing, because that's effectively what it is. It's like you channel chakra into one specific point. It's meant to be the absolute height of chakra control, that you can just have a just this tank of chakra sealed in that one mark. But it's very, very interesting. So they're setting up that Sakura, they're going to go to Sakura to get explanation about this. I assume Tsunade might get involved in this as well. If they get Orochimaru in, that's going to be pretty cool as well. Because again, like I suppose it gets into sort of the stuff like if you're thinking about, okay, like Boruto and Kawaki are training, they're growing. What is Sarada going to do? Of course, she has the Sharingan sort of development path of like eventually she could have the Mangekyo. That's going to be great. But she also has the aspects of her mother as well. So is she going to try and get one of these seals as well and learn it over time? Then there's the whole summoning kind of jutsu thing of like, is she going to get a slug summon or what? And then it brings up the idea of slug sage mode. Like we don't really know what that is. Because in a way, the powers of the myopic regeneration jutsu suit like sage slug power, but that's not what it is. So we haven't really seen that exact thing. I don't think we've... In the anime, we went to the Ryuguchi cave, is it? Where the snake sages are? We haven't gone to the place that is the sort of sacred slug area yet. So that's something that's interesting. Anyway, in the middle of all of this, Boruto's about to go off, and Kawaki just kind of calls him back and is like, Jigen, he's the one who carved the karma mark into me. He's the one who messed me up. He knows everything. He's an inevitable wall that we'll have to overcome if we're going to unravel the mystery behind karma and make it disappear. Sooner or later, the time will come for us to battle him, and we must defeat him. Whether he uses karma or whatever, regardless of whatever he'll use against us. Boruto understands. He says we'll have to train harder to do that. We have to get stronger. And it isn't just about karma. After everything that's happened, I can't just leave you and your issues alone. And this is a really, really cool panel here. Boruto like fist bumps kind of Kawaki in the chest and says, brother, and he says, you got that. And they kind of have an understanding here. It's a really nice moment of just like, I suppose, it is kind of this nice thing of Boruto is beginning to see him as being that close. And given, I suppose, the tease that they started the Boruto manga with, we know something's going to happen here along the way. But they're setting up, I think, something as we'll get to. We'll crush Jigen together along with Kara. And Kawaki laughs and is like, not bad, that's exactly what I wanted, Boruto. So we cut back to Sasuke at this point in time, and we see the Ten Tails here, this different one. As he says here, it resembles the Jubi. It even possesses a Rinnegan. Seems like those stakes prevent it from moving, but he can't distinguish, the number of tails it has. What kind of person did this? So immediately, the thing you have here is like, okay, he would know what like the Kaguya Ten Tails looks like. So this is obviously a different Ten Tails, which is possible to happen because we know the Otsutsuki, part of what they do is that they go from like dimension to dimension, finding different places that have sort of a god tree where a chakra fruit is growing, and they get it. And then we know the Ten Tails is formed when a Otsutsuki merges with the god tree. They become what is in essence the Ten Tails. So that's kind of what this is, which pretty much means that what's here is that this is probably some other Otsutsuki from another dimension who merged with a god tree again from a different dimension, and that's what we have here. So, you know, that's an interesting one in itself. But Sasuke notices someone kind of coming in, someone using space-time ninjutsu, and someone appears, and it's Jigen. So Jigen has access to space-time ninjutsu. Huge thing there. He doesn't have a Rinnegan, but he has that. And he's like, there's the karma mark on his chin. And that guy is Jigen, so 100% confirmation that it's him. He knows what's going on. He goes right into where the Jubi is, and he just says, "Hey Jubi, have you been a good boy?" And Sasuke's like, "Wait, you know what this is?" And he says, "There. I didn't tell you that it's too. Didn't I tell you that it's too soon for you to eat me? I have to complete the vessel first." That's interesting, because he's basically the thing wants to eat him, but he's kind of like, oh yeah, that's fine, just not yet. I have to complete the vessel first, then you can eat me. That's the implication of what's being said here. Now, what exactly does that mean? What is the significance of the Ten Tails eating potentially another Otsutsuki member, if that is indeed the case as it seems to be here? I'm not sure. We'll discuss it after we get through this. So he says, I'm taking a little bit more, and he begins to absorb chakra from this thing. So he gets more powerful, and what happens here is the karma mark begins to expand. Sasuke makes the connection between the same one as Boruto and Kawaki. And what happens is that the same horn that we saw from the image of the Otsutsuki member who was paired with Kaguya appears on him. And it seems like that he effectively is that Otsutsuki, or this is revealing some specific nature of the karma mark, that when you use it to the absolute maximum, you let it completely take over your body. What is effectively happening is that the, I suppose, energy from that Otsutsuki that you took, which is the karma mark, we know Momoshiki gave it to Boruto, that I suppose if Jigen killed this Otsutsuki guy, and he's activating this karma mark to this max degree using the chakra from Ten Tails, he is effectively, I suppose, channeling the power of an Otsutsuki through himself, or something along those lines. Because I don't know if we're meant to 100% take it as being the case that Jigen is this Otsutsuki. I actually am leaning more down the direction of that the ultimate power of a karma mark is that when you use it to a maximum degree, you are effectively channeling the Otsutsuki that you got the karma mark from through yourself. I think suggesting that Boruto, if he went 100% with the karma mark, would the horns that Momoshiki had would sort of begin to sort of show through him in some way. Now, I'm not really sure, but that's one way of looking at it in a way. But either way, the fact that he knows about Ten Tails and this specific stuff is, I think, very interesting. And how he's preparing the vessel, he's willing to let himself be eaten, is interesting, because clearly the Ten Tails, as far as we're aware, it has to be an Otsutsuki and a god tree together. So if he gets consumed by it and he's an Otsutsuki, what is exactly happening there, I suppose, is the question. Is this about chakra fruit in the end of the day, or what? Obviously we know the Ten Tails is because this one hasn't been split into the tailed beasts. This is the power of all 9 tailed beasts effectively as one. So this is an incredibly powerful thing, and they're setting up straight away that this is a power level that is going to match absolutely and probably surpass Naruto and Sasuke. I think that's what this has done overall, is that it's done a good job at getting across the idea of we are talking about, that level of power here. So I do like that. So Jigen then says, shall I go greet them, those two vessels, I mean? And I think that's just really interesting. Like, so that suggests that Jigen's plan is to immediately confront Kawaki and Boruto. Don't know what to make of that. Is it happening right now? Because Mitsuki and Boruto are like running through the trees. You know, they have a talk here about, you know, Mitsuki asks, what if the karma mark never disappears and you stay like this forever? How would you feel about that? And he says, even if you defeated Jigen, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be resolved, regardless of whether or not you can defeat him. And Boruto says, well, I guess that would be pretty scary, but we shouldn't start grumbling about something so trivial. If we think about it as a super awesomely ranked mission, won't we get fired up instead? And Mitsuki's like, wait, what, a mission? Even if the objective is rather reckless, it's a mission. We'll put forth our best effort no matter what. And he says, that's because I'm Sasuke, Sasuke's disciple, the Hokage's son, and a ninja. And the kind of text that we have, I suppose the promo text, is there's an emerging threat. Boruto has refreshed his resolve and is heading towards Jigen's location. So that's interesting. Let me go back to the previous scene with Boruto to see what exactly he was up to just before he left. Yeah, even if it's just a story, I guess we'll just have to go ask about it. So yeah, he's Boruto's going to go see Tsunade, is I think what I get from this. Obviously, there's a few things that happen between then and now, but that seems to be the plan. That's where he's heading off with Mitsuki to. That's what he said. And I don't think they obviously suggest in the dialogue that happens after this. I get they say that, like, together we will take down Jigen if we have to. But, like, they don't have the information of, like, where Jigen is. But I suppose that promo text is just getting across the idea that, you know, at some point they're going to come into conflict with each other. They'll find each other. So yeah, that is the chapter. No break for next week. Next time. So it will be next month that we get the chapters. So that's good. So yeah, I think immediately the big thing here is, I think what a lot of Naruto fans are going to have to do in all of this is really look back through a lot of the information on the Ototsukis, God Trees, Ten Tails, how that stuff sort of works and together and so on, and try and figure out that stuff. I'm assuming we'll get that explanation. They'll give us the sort of updated lore explanation for what way we're really meant to interpret all of this. But either way, fascinating reveal by just immediately saying 6 Otsutsuki straight away characters. Now, what exactly is that location and what's the significance of it? Because immediately you'd be like, oh, well, 3 of those Otsutsukis ended up on Earth, so Jigen's also on Earth, so that's like 4 of them. What's with the ones that are scratched out, and what other Otsutsuki clan members do we know about? And like, okay, there's Toneri, and there's Urashiki. Toneri is dead? Question mark? I can't actually remember. Let me just look this up. Because like there was that scene earlier on in the manga, actually, and I think we saw him not that long ago. I think he's still alive. So they're the only other 2 Otsutsuki members that we know about that you would connect to Earth, like without just going into like tons of other characters. Urashiki is very interesting in all of this, in that he's very mysterious. You know, there's a sense that he's kind of he was almost like lying and manipulating Momoshiki in all of this as well, and that makes him very interesting. In that, what if he was the one who, you know, destroyed the kind of markings on the wall? That would be, I think, very, very interesting. So yeah. Toneri defeated by Urashiki. Urashiki eventually found Toneri. He petrified him in a time-like freeze for 10,000 years. So, okay, Toneri's still alive. That'd be interesting if that was the connection that they ultimately made. That the other 2 are meant to be Toneri and Urashiki, and potentially Urashiki is this Otsutsuki who's manipulating a lot of stuff. That could be very, very interesting, I think, depending on what way they go about it. Because immediately there's your 6 Otsutsuki characters. Again, assuming the thing with Jigen is that, like, which way are we meant to interpret it is that, like, is Jigen the Otsutsuki, or does he just sort of develop aspects of being an Otsutsuki because of the karma mark. Because Momoshiki, as the other origin, I suppose, of a karma mark, it was never made clear if like that was an ability he had, or if it was literally just like the essence of himself that he gives to Boruto to allow himself to sort of persist within Boruto. I think that's more of the interpretation that I take from it, meaning that there probably is an unnamed Otsutsuki out there, and Jigen just sort of has his essence. That's where he got his karma mark from. But they're my thoughts on this chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.